Hello and welcome to the Yggdrasil podcast. I am your host, Ratatosker. Today we have NintendoBlackCrisis, a returning guest, and we have Monster Maze for the first time. Thank you for coming, both of you.
Yeah, no problem. Always nice to see Will.
The funny part is no one's gonna ever know this joke. Just keep
we've
it
been on so many podcasts together by this point, so it's like familiar face, makes me feel more relaxed.
Yeah, and I was on. I think the last time I was on was literally like the last podcast you had, and it was very fitting because it was following the whole gameplay presentation, which we had that whole Zonai thing. So that was a fun discussion.
Ooh.
So since I've already had you, NintendoBlackCrisis, let me ask Monster Maze my traditional question I like to ask all the Zelda tubers. What was your first Zelda, Monster Maze, and which one's your favorite?
Ocarina of Time was my first, and my favorite tends to shift around quite a lot. I have like a top 5, which kind of is just like interchangeable. Sometimes it depends on which game I played last, and maybe I got sick of, and then it drops down a few pegs. So yeah, it changes. So I usually don't name a favorite, but like when it comes to top 5s, like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Breath of the Wild, Skyward Sword, and what's the other one? I don't know. I forgot. But
well, obviously it's not. That one's not the top one spot. It's not in the top 3.
Dude, that's so relatable what you just said. I can never have a favorite. Mine's like a top 3.
Yeah, I guess Wind Waker would be up there too.
That's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great. It's such a good game.
So, fellas, I followed both of your channels, and I've noticed that we just had the trailer, the final trailer reveal, a lot of new information, and neither of you have output anything since then. What's going on?
Well, in my case, it's just because I didn't want to do an analysis like all the others do because they're doing it better and more, and I don't have the time to make a 40-minute to 50-minute video. As much as I think it's incredibly impressive what these guys are doing, I'm not willing to destroy myself for that. So I usually when there's like new trailers or new teasers or even with the gameplay demonstration, I tend to find like one thing I can focus on, so I have a more focused subject that I can build upon, and then I can keep it manageable somewhere between 10 to 20 minutes, which is what I'm doing right now.
It is this last gameplay trailer is the first time I gave a crack at the very extensive analysis that I see the other Zelda tubers doing. It is quite stressful. It's very difficult, like 30 minutes, 40 minutes of just analyzing this thing and making the video. It's difficult. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and in my case, I'm also going on holiday on Thursday, so like Thursday or Friday. We're not entirely sure yet, but it will be this week. So yeah, I'm just not a very fast worker when it comes to my content. I tend to take my time. I want to chew on it. If I just pump out videos, I always regret it afterwards. I'm like, I could have done better. I'm already seeing many things I was wrong about, or so I tend to avoid fast videos.
So do you know what you're going to be focusing on yet, or is that something you don't want to talk about until it's out?
Oh no, that's fine. I'm going to be mostly focusing on the ancient sages and the possible connection to the 8th heroine, and that mystery kind of ties into that too. It actually started as a video just talking about the sages, and then like halfway through I was like, oh, maybe I can tie it to a Breath of the Wild mystery too, since we had the 7 heroines, and now we have what seems like 7 sages. And from there, it kind of started rolling, and now I have the script is done. I just have to record the voiceover, which I'm only like on page 1.
Yeah, voiceovers are brutal, man.
Yeah, well, especially if you're non-native, if you're not a native speaker, I just trip over my words so many times.
So BlackCrisis. How about you? What's the holdup? Where's our videos?
It's an analysis, Okay, let me put it this way. I'm like halfway through my notes. And most of my notes just are the observations. There's a ton of stuff that I'm gonna like elaborate later on, like the idea of Zelda being stuck in the past. I've also been looking more at the shot with the Ganondorf transforming into that demise figure, and I've been on this whole like snowball effect where it's like, oh, this actually looks like it's taking place in the past. So I have to, elaborate on that, as well as I'm gonna bring up a bit of the Sage stuff, but all that stuff is just like single line notes at the end of my script. I'm halfway through the notes and already it has surpassed the length of my 40-minute gameplay analysis. So I'm a bit yeah.
It's safe to say it's not a analysis video, it's the analysis video
It's the final trailer analysis. Like I when I went in this, I'm like, this has to be like the send off for all this time. It's led up to this final analysis. It's the last time we can analyze, aside from like obviously like the theories and stuff, just like it's the last time we can do a regular analysis of a whole trailer.
I see.
So I'm just trying to go all out on this.
Yeah, that's actually great. That serves a particular niche that is not like usually the analysis videos. Those are like, okay, let's get these out as rapidly as possible.
Yes.
But you're going for another strategy where, okay, let me make sure it's as comprehensive as possible, make no mistakes on it.
Yeah, when you're on like the YouTube game with talking about trailers and stuff, it's either you want to get into that first like 24 hours and get out an analysis quickly, because obviously the ones that come out first are gonna generally get more views, but that comes at the expense of quality. Some people can get those analysis videos out really quick and they're really good. The only other option is like, if you wait longer, you need to make sure yours sticks out. I did something similar with the 2021 trailer because I was really excited for it, but I waited super long and that one ended up being like 45 minutes. And it ended up doing pretty good. So it's kind of a similar strategy here.
I notice I don't have a Discord, I don't have a Discord, but I think that would be a great advantage when you're trying to get things out quickly and try to be as accurate as possible in your initial thing. Because if you have a Discord and you have a lot of people that follow you that are also looking at the trailer, they can point stuff out to you in a Discord kind of format.
Yeah.
So I wish I could tolerate having a Discord, but I'm just very antisocial and would rather not talk to people.
Yeah,
well, plus it's not as easy as just that, because everybody wants to share stuff with you, like on Twitter. People are sending you emails. Have you seen this already? What do you think about that? And it does become overwhelming. I'm similar. I'm kind of antisocial in a way where I've just shut the whole world off and just focus on my own thoughts for a minute. The only thing I will do is have calls with people like Will and Zeltic, and just sit down with them and just discuss ideas, because usually we're on quite a similar wavelength when it comes to the observations we make and the conclusions we draw from them. But that's pretty much all I do.
Yeah,
in those initial stages.
Especially as the more we get of the trailer, the easier it is to like piece together some things. Also, but like I'm also kind of antisocial when it comes to Discord stuff. So I really talk on my Discord. It's not like I'm always there, but the one tab I always look at, and one of the ones I kind of only look at, to be honest, is like theories, because I am interested in what people are talking about.
Right.
And there are cases where people have contributed to like the videos, because in my gameplay analysis, that's where Discord user Angelo, I think, he had shared a map he made, mapping out the whole Sky Island. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. Do you mind if I use this and credit you? So, there's that. There's also the fact that I think Don and I had both, after the trailer, we did a bit of a live stream just kind of breaking stuff down. So we have the YouTube live chat to kind of help us with some early stuff that we may have missed. Also, there's Twitter, tons of people sending you stuff. On occasions, you will get stuff that you just completely miss. And yeah, it's very, just discussing with other content creators. There's so many. It's important to look at it as like a group effort. I don't. There's nothing wrong with just doing it all by yourself, you know. But sometimes it is nice to get another person's opinion of something, especially if you're about to make a video on it, because you don't want that video to
Right.
age poorly.
Right. I just wish I was
Yeah.
better at harnessing all of that stuff, because I get overwhelmed pretty easily. Like I'll just read my comments. You know, just my comments are. I try and read all of them. I do read all of them actually, but it's just it gets so much information. It's so many people's different ideas, and they start meshing in your head. And then I start thinking. It's almost like I'm starting. It's almost like it's affecting my ability to analyze after a certain point. After you hear so many different theories or the same theory over and over, you start thinking, well, maybe that theory is correct. Like, look at all these people that are doing it, but maybe you wouldn't have thought of that on your own, and maybe you would have thought of a different theory had you not been influenced in that direction. Stuff like that just worries me. So I think my method's gonna have to stay until I can figure out a better way to process all the information.
Oh, it's a balance for sure, because if you keep interacting with people the whole, like all day, all the time while you're working on videos, you're not going to get the work done. At some point, you just have to cut it off and just be like, I really have to focus now. And I've noticed too, like some people will share things, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool, I'll credit you, but at some point, like you said, it becomes overwhelming. I'm also easily overwhelmed by information. And this trailer was so big that for the first 2-3 days, I didn't even know where to start. I didn't pick a subject until Sunday, I think. Like I didn't decide on this final subject that I chose until about Sunday.
Yeah, it's the one positive about when you make analysis videos is you know what video you're going to make when a trailer drops. Like you already have an idea. Oh, I'll just make an analysis of this. But when you don't do that and you're not on that like initial train of trying to like get something out, you then have to try and find like one thing to talk about or one topic to dive into. And it can be difficult. Sometimes it's easier, something like the September, there wasn't much to begin with. So the topics were a lot more limited, so you kind of could choose. But there's just so much.
I'm at the
There's
point.
like,
sorry for interrupting you, but I was just gonna say I'm at the point where I'm making videos daily because I've realized like I have a lot of ideas that I would like to get out before the game releases. Like there's just a lot.
Yeah.
There's just a lot there. I feel like an hourglass that's only pumping out one grain of sand at a time. I'm just physically incapable of making any more videos than I'm currently making at the moment. But it's like there's just so much, and there's an evolution to these things, because like what people thought 3 days ago is not what people think today. So like my 3 days ago video is already outdated. Like okay, you mentioned the time travel theory. 3 days ago that wasn't a popular thought, but it is now.
No.
It is now. Now
It is now, yeah.
It's the default assumption now for most people that I see. So if I hadn't talked at least a little bit about the time travel theory back then it would be wasteful. Like it would almost be wasteful. So I'm feeling like I got to put these ideas out as fast as they come to me.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just there's nothing wrong with just getting a bunch of ideas out there. For me, I mentioned it in the beginning, but like the thing that I've sort of just recently feel completely different on now is like I am pretty sure the shot of Ganondorf transforming into that demise-like figure is taking place in the ancient past. Whenever that Zelda-like figure is blasting away those Molduga. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, this is, when he's rehydrated and when he transforms. But the Great Plateau has been such a center point, especially for this trailer. User, I think Lugia had pinpointed that Zelda was standing behind the Temple of Time, somewhere on the plateau, on that same platform that we later know is, ascended to the sky, or there just so happens to be another completely identical platform, which, I don't think that's the case. But the fact that the plateau is the birthplace of Hyrule, that it makes sense story-wise, because if Ganondorf was still under the castle, then it'd be kind of weird if in the present he then moved to the Great Plateau, did his transformation. The only other possibility is that there's like a story related reason why he moves all the way over there, or that he wasn't sealed in the castle. But it just,
So you think that his transformation into that demise-looking figure is what is shown in the mural in the trailer, where he's sending...
that's the thing. That's sort of another thing that kind of led to it, because I was like, maybe the thing on the, maybe like, because at the time when I still thought that maybe it was happening in the present, I was like, oh, so maybe he's gonna transform back into what he used to look like before he was sealed, and that would explain how it looks on the mural. But now I'm thinking, wait, what if that was that transformation?
I do want to get into that, because that mural...
There's so much. There's so much.
That mural actually is extremely interesting, because that's Ganondorf on the mural. You know, that's not Demise on the mural, and that's an ancient Zonai mural. So that's something that happened to the Zonai, right? Like, we're all in agreement on that so far?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And he has horns too.
Yeah, and he has horns in the mural. So this means Ganondorf, like not even not Demise, like just Ganondorf at some point in the past attacked the Zonai. So that by itself like has huge implications. But we'll get into that. Before we get like actually into the trailer, I want to talk to Monster Maze. I don't want to forget this about your Triforce video. Did you happen to see my Triforce video that I made recently?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's how that's why I added you on Twitter. I was like, finally, someone who came to a similar conclusion I have.
So there's a funny story behind that. I have been talking about making this video since I started making Zelda content. Like I've been talking about this video really for months. About I'm always proselytizing about how the Triforce pieces were found in the Sacred Realm. You know, and so that's just something I've thought about since Skyward Sword came out, but I wasn't a YouTuber back then. So then I went to go collect the footage for the water in the Sacred Realm, the Waking Water that has the Triforce symbol on it. And I was like, all right, you know, I'll stream while I'm collecting this footage, because I don't have easy access to it. I can't find it online anywhere. There's no like recording of it. I don't even see a picture when I go to Google Images, so I'll just go in Skyward Sword. And then people started mentioning your video, and I was like, well, when did his video come out? I wonder how... Oh, 3 weeks ago. Darn it.
Yeah, it was right before it.
Oh, man.
I don't even know what started. I think it was because I was doing a video about I was planning to do a video about the Sacred Realm, but there was so much to the Sacred Realm, just all the contradictory information about what it is and what it looks like and how it works in the context of the story or the different stories, because it always has different rules, it seems. And I think from there, because there was such a prominent theory about the Silent Realm being the Sacred Realm, I started looking into that first. So as one of the first points that I wanted to tackle was like, well, is it? Is it actually? And from there, the whole Triforce video, that happens to me quite often actually, where it just spins into its own, you know, offshoot video. And that happened to be the Triforce one.
That's I thought that was an excellent video. I really like that you made the case, like you've popularized the case pretty much on your own, that the Silent Realm is an inner world for Link specifically. It's his psyche, and I'm just like, okay, at least somebody popularized it, like somebody said it. That's wonderful. I'm glad. Like our theories aren't exactly the same. I think we came to different conclusions. Your theory was that he literally had the Triforce like in lores in game, and that was intended the whole time, right? I'm not misinterpreting that.
Yeah, basically he had a dormant version of the full Triforce inside of him, or inside of his bloodline, maybe even since the beginning of the story, and all the little clues where he's like for example, picking up Triforce pieces from the Silent Realm, that kind of just triggered this feeling of that there's something weird about this, because he didn't do that in the Wind Waker. In the Wind Waker, he just collects pieces of the Triforce in the normal world and glues it back together, and there you go, Triforce of Courage, hooray. So for me, it always stood out as something weird. And to be fair, I cannot take full credit for the idea that the Silent Realm is like an inner world. I've talked to other people before, like Rinkuto, for example, that French theorist, also very talented, very good at what he does. He's very much into the whole Buddhism and
Oh,
the real life inspirations behind the Zelda universe. And I think I had a call about it with him prior to making that video, like a few days before. And he already came to the same conclusion like long ago about what the Silent Realm is. So I was just happy. I didn't steal that idea because I did find that out. Like I did like shape that theory on my own. But it was just nice to hear someone who came to the exact same conclusion. So like, oh, okay, I'm not completely crazy then.
Yeah, it gives you confidence when you see that. Sometimes that's the last push you need to make like an idea.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm glad. It's really happy when a lot of people come to the same conclusion, especially when it's not a popular conclusion. Because I tried to talk about that like on a stream, still somewhere. When I was playing Twilight Princess, and I was just talking to people, and I was trying to explain to them about the Silent Realm and just these thoughts I had, and everybody's calling me crazy. I was like, okay, fine. I'm just gonna have to make the video at some point. You guys aren't listening. I can't express myself while I'm fighting all these monsters in Twilight Princess.
Sometimes it's so difficult. Like even when I try to explain a theory, it's like, oh, so basically tell me why you think this, and I'm like, oh, well, I haven't read the script yet. I'm not sure where to start. Even like when I'm talking to monster-based someone with my ideas, I'll tell Don something. He'll be like, oh yeah, so why do you think that? And I'm like, well, it's kind of hard to say right now because I haven't like put it down into words.
You haven't structured your thoughts yet.
It just, some of us are like that. We can't. That's why we have to stick to scripted content.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same with me. It's why I'm terrible at debates. All the good arguments and defenses come way
like,
after the debate is already over.
Yeah, even like on Twitter, where you could just have time before your next response. I struggle with that. And like, just because you're not good at debating doesn't mean that like the stuff you're saying is completely incorrect. It just means it's not a talent to like be in a discussion.
Right.
And to be specific, when we're talking debate, we're always talking about like, the healthy conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people are just jerks.
Yeah, they're just trying to show that they're smarter than you or something.
Yeah, but even when you try to have that like a mature discussion, you just can't, because you're someone who like you'd have to just say to them, oh, you can, go back to this video where I actually have it all structured,
Well, I find that
plus
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was about to say like plus even the best debaters out there, they still have a lot of stuff memorized prior to going into that debate. Like suppose they're talking about healthcare or something, they have all the data and all the numbers. They already planned that ahead so that when they do get asked the hard question,
they have a prepared response.
They try to predict what will be asked,
and they know the typical arguments made by the opposing side. And they know the appropriate responses to their side. And usually debates like those, like in front of a public, those are just about looking good. Like those are not actually about it's about winning. Like it's about winning, those kind of things. They're quite annoying.
Yeah, for sure. And in the case of Zelda theories, the stakes are not that high, but you do put yourself in front of sometimes like hundreds of thousands of people, and you do have to come with a pretty good argument to that, especially if you're going to challenge a pre-established thought about the Zelda lore, a pre-established idea about Zelda lore, which we'll probably get into that too. But for like just as a quick example, I can see so much confusion right now also on Twitter about how the timeline of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom works. Like there seems to, like they keep referring to, for example, to the tapestry from 10,000 years ago. Like, oh, is this new mystery woman that we see? Is that this woman we see on the tapestry? Like that's a completely unrelated event. That like
I also think that, yeah.
Yeah, the one on the mural is the events we are probably going to be experiencing, whether it's in flashbacks or through Zelda's eyes, who is stuck in the past. But that's like way, way older than the events from 10,000 years ago. The events from 10,000 years ago is just the first calamity, the first recorded case of a fight against Calamity Ganon, which was a victory, a clean victory.
That I think is the evidence that it's not the same event, because it's Calamity Ganon, not Ganondorf. And the mural that you see in the latest trailer, that's clearly Ganondorf in a humanoid maybe demonic form, but it's not gaseous. It's not Calamity Ganon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. At most, the figure definitely looks very similar to the Princess of the Tapestry, but that just means that they look similar,
which they do. Zelda looks similar to
it was a
lady.
long time ago. So and the fact, like, assuming that this might be an ancient version of Zelda or something, the ears are way longer, which I feel like also just shows how much old. I guess over time maybe the pointy ears were less,
Yeah, it's not like we can blame people for being confused, because Nintendo hasn't always done the best job of explaining how it works. Because in Age of Calamity, for example, they used the tapestry from 10,000 years ago to illustrate things that happened 100 years ago, which you see Terako appearing behind her, and it's like, wait, that's completely unrelated. How can Terako appear behind this princess? That's not even the same incarnation of Zelda. So I definitely don't blame people for making that, like, being confused about it. But it is funny how when you make a video, so like for example, right now I'm making a video about the sages, I do have to address that, and that immediately puts another page into my script, because you do at least have to clarify, like, these are
you have to
two
acknowledge it, Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are two unrelated events. Like, Ganondorf's being sealed is what ultimately leads to him becoming the Calamity, because he's frozen in time.
Yeah, let me
frozen in place.
Let me make sure we're all on the same page on that, right? We're assuming that he got sealed sometime during the Zonai time by the Zonai, because he's got the arm there, or something like that, and that caused malice to seep out and build up, and that's what created the Calamity Ganon that the Breath of the Wild people know for the last 10,000 years, right?
Yeah, which is basically just a phantom of Ganon,
right,
that he created.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad we're all on the same page on that. We're finding some firm ground, some firm footing.
Calamity Ganon also always in Breath of the Wild stays at Hyrule Castle. It feels like he can't leave.
Right.
And I think that further just shows that he needs to be sealed under the castle.
Well, to be fair, that you could also just assume that Zelda is what's keeping him, because he is sealed there and she's stuck in the castle with him, and that that's what you could also assume, that that's what's keeping him from going outward.
Right.
Yeah. Whatever the case is, Calamity Ganon was just a phantom, just like the Blights. So it's basically a remote controlled. It does have Ganondorf's consciousness in there somewhere, probably, because he can, like, see everything. He has intelligence, even though he doesn't speak. Like, Calamity Ganon is like this faceless evil that just it doesn't talk to you, but it did learn from its mistakes from 10,000 years ago, where he got his butt kicked by the Sheikah and their technology, and then came back 10,000 years later and was like, haha,
yeah, took it over.
I will just take these robots for myself. I will corrupt them and use them against them, which is arguably one of the most successful victories Ganondorf has ever had over Hyrule.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the trailer.
All right.
Was it not the greatest trailer you've ever seen?
It's so okay. So it might sound weird, but even though I'm a Zelda content creator, I don't think there would be a Zelda game in my top 10 of all time. Which I know is going to shock people.
Wow.
With that said, not only do I have a strong belief that Tears of the Kingdom will become my favorite Zelda game, but I feel like it may hit that list.
Right.
Because, like, it looks so good. I cannot wait to play it.
I felt emotional looking at that trailer.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I felt real deep feelings, because I don't know if you guys watched much of my content before that trailer came out, but a lot of it was skeptical. Like, a lot of it was making explanations for why people might be skeptical. Like, it's not unreasonable to be skeptical, guys. Like they really haven't shown very much kind of content. And then this trailer comes out, and I'm just like, I'm going to the other side. I'm sorry, fellas. Like, any one of you that are still down there, being in the DLC group, like, I feel for you. I was, like, in the middle. I was a radical centrist. I'm leaving. I'm going over there to the hype side right now.
Yeah.
That was originally the opening words of my script. Was like I've been off the fence and into the hype camp since before this trailer, because I kind of trust the Zelda team enough where I'm like, well, when have they ever really messed up? You know, it's even the worst Zelda game is still a decent game,
Right.
a decent video game. So they're not going to spend 6 years just, doing nothing. And I was never worried, let's just put it that way. But I did see your video about it, and I do agree that I've said this from, I think after the September trailer from last year, I did say, I can see why for some people this is not enough yet to, just because I, as a Zelda fan, as like a seasoned Zelda veteran, just because I have that trust, there's so many new Zelda fans now that are like Breath of the Wild may have been their first Zelda game. A lot of them are actually.
I would argue most of them are at this point.
Yeah, the game sold so incredibly well. Yeah, so I've never been like. It's not like I cannot empathize with the people who were on the fence, but after this trailer, if people still are on the fence, I'm going to be like, well, now you're just probably... It could still be the case that the game just doesn't look like a type of game that you would enjoy. But you cannot say with a straight face that this is DLC. That's just not.
I know I think some people, it's fine to still kind of be on the fence. I completely disagree. I think they've shown more than enough with this trailer, but it's just the DLC claim.
The DLC comment.
Stop.
I don't know what kind of DLC these people are playing, but I want
some of that DLC.
Oh, inject that into my veins, baby.
Well, see, the thing is, what I love the most about this trailer is the reaction that I saw to it. Because of the nature of my content, I like almost all the negative people were clustered around my channel. Like, they'd come to my videos and they'd comment on it, and then they'd express their concerns. And that's what, I'm greatly sympathetic to that. I like looking at sizable minority positions and trying to understand where they're coming from. But after that trailer, like, I saw people that were like, yeah, I'm not going to buy this. I'm going to go play something else. Be like, okay, never mind. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy this so much. I saw people on the chat doing it. I saw people in my comment sections. I have hundreds. I could make a whole video 20, 30 minutes long just showing comment after comment, reading them out, being specifically saying I was not excited, I was skeptical, or I wasn't going to buy it, and now I'm completely hyped. I believe now. Like, now I get what they were going for. They really were hiding so much. So it, like, I think it really wasn't like all these people were just being negative for no reason. It really was a situation where they weren't getting it, and now they get it. So I released a poll, and in the poll that I put initially before the trailer, it was like a 8%, 10%, something like that. People were not excited, didn't care for what they had seen so far, and then like total the bad and the uninterested was like 40% of the commenters on the poll. After the trailer, 1% was had a negative impression, and together with the uninterested, it's like 7%. So there's like a 90% of like, I've never seen numbers like that. I put out these polls regularly. I put them out for Elden Ring. I put them out for Monster Hunter. I've never seen such a positive response in a poll.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Sorry,
go ahead.
That's fine.
No, I was saying, like, I'm not really like that, where I like you said, you like the minority voice. You find that fascinating to an extent, right?
Yeah,
you said.
Yeah, I like understanding their position.
Yeah, for me, it's a bit harder because I'm just a naturally, like, let's just put it this way: if there is a set track record of something where it keeps delivering time and time and time again, and at some point people are still not trusting enough in that particular IP, for example. Like, just as a quick example, when the last season of Stranger Things was announced, there were so many people who were like, this took way too long, they didn't show us anything, it's probably not going to be any good. I was like, it's always been good. Why suddenly now would it be bad? It just doesn't make sense to me why you would take that negative stance if you already know from past experience that the series was good. Same with Elden Ring. When Elden Ring in the beginning, they were a bit slow. Also, just like with Tears of the Kingdom, they were slow to reveal stuff. They didn't update us for years sometimes, and then but it's from Soft. They've always delivered so far. Every game they make is a masterpiece. So why would we expect any different this time? So I understand the fascination with it. And if it's a general complaint that's just purely subjective, where, for example, someone just says, I prefer classic Zelda. I don't like all this crafting, like making vehicles and crafting stuff. That's just not for me. I just prefer the older style of Zelda. So I'm not going to buy this. Then I'm like, totally fair. That's totally fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
But
I see some people mention how like they should have had this trailer out sooner.
Nope, absolutely not. They should not have done that.
Yeah, because like I was
I'm
gonna
glad
ask
we
you,
agree.
I was gonna ask you of your opinion, because like for me personally, first off, it would be so much harder to wait because everything looks amazing. But also, as Don says, even if they're really quiet, obviously they're gonna be doing stuff all these years, working on the game, and they have a track record. So I don't see why they would need to have this trailer out sooner.
Here's my problem. Here was the problem I had previously. There was a group of people that I was always on the bandwagon, like nervous, but I was on the wagon where it was like, there's just no way that what we see in all of these previous trailers is representative of what, even before the gameplay trailer. Like, forget the gameplay trailer, the trailer before that. I was always like, there's just no way that this is representative of what 6 years of development. It's impossible. Can't be. I refuse to believe it. And I was saying that, look, it doesn't make sense. There has to be more. But the defense, the kinds of defenses I would hear would be like, you're crazy. This is plenty. This is plenty. Like, this is absolutely representative of what the game looks like. And it's enormous. It's an enormous amount of content. And like, if that's an enormous amount of content, you must be happy as hell, because it's like what we see now. It's clearly like something like 6 or 7 times more than what those trailers suggested. This makes me happy. Like, I look at this, I'm like, okay, this is what I was talking about. And this the way that they introduce things in this trailer makes me think there's way more that we still don't know. There's tons more that we still don't see. This trailer is just scratching on the surface. It's all
for sure.
That's all I wanted to see. That's all I wanted. I don't want to hear these arguments where what they were showing before was sufficient. Wasn't sufficient for me. Clearly wasn't sufficient for a lot of the people that were in my polls, because now they're happy. I'm happy. They're happy. I'm just happy we're all on the same side now for the most part.
I think it just also boils down to how you handle those types of things. Because to be fair, I was not very impressed with the September trailer. I thought it was too short. It didn't say much. It was just more Sky Islands, and like aside from maybe one brief glimpse of a cave or something, where that's not enough for me either. But
it was a glorified title reveal, and most of it was just that mural shot.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it didn't do much either. But I guess the difference is, I will just move on from that feeling like, all right, maybe they're just not ready to show more yet.
You had the trust. You had the Nintendo trust. You're like, oh, this is Nintendo. This is the Zelda series. They'd never made a bad Zelda game. Why would this be different?
Yeah. Plus, I'm an almost unnatural optimist when it comes to a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm just like, well, I guess we'll see more later. And instead of thinking, oh, this game is going to suck, clearly they don't know what they're doing, because this is not enough to convince me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's different for everyone. I don't think I'm in the right either, because I can be too naive sometimes, where I get disappointed because I keep holding on to a certain degree of hope or positivity. Or
you mentioned Elden Ring, and I kind of just want to piss off all of my audiences right now, my Elden Ring audience, my Souls audience. So I loved Breath of the Wild when it came out. I still consider myself more of a classic Zelda fan. I enjoy classic Zelda, I think. But I loved Breath of the Wild, and I played Breath of the Wild more than I probably played almost all the other games combined. Like I was I was in that world for a long time. So I'm a big Breath of the Wild fan. I would say it's my number 2 game in the Zelda series. But when Elden Ring came out, and it was an open world game as well, and there was a lot of parallels between Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring. Not so much in like design, but in how they treated their relationship to previous games that they made in the same genre, in the same series.
Same philosophy.
Yeah. I was like, during the Game of the Year awards there was this chance that Tears of the Kingdom would release the previous year and compete with Elden Ring for Game of the Year. And going off of just Breath of the Wild, I just thought that Elden Ring was so much better than Breath of the Wild. It wasn't even close. Like I wanted Tears of the Kingdom to come out just so Elden Ring could crush it. Like just so I could see it crush into the dirt. Like I just thought that Elden Ring was so much of an advancement to in comparison to something like Breath of the Wild. It wasn't close. But now I see the Tears of the Kingdom trailer, and I'm like, now I don't know. Like now I don't know. I actually think that I am probably going to. Maybe I'm full of copium, but I think I'm going to like Tears of the Kingdom more than I liked Elden Ring, and I liked Elden Ring a lot. Like I liked Elden Ring a whole lot. But right now, I think Elden Ring is not going to be as good as Tears of the Kingdom. That's my initial impression. That's my prediction. So now I've pissed off the Breath of the Wild fans, and I've pissed out the Elden Ring people.
Yeah, and to be fair, that's not really something to be mad about, because isn't that what we all want, is to have greater and greater experiences? So Breath of the Wild set the groundwork. Everybody was excited.
Yeah.
Then Elden Ring came along, which did it, like it naturally involved the formula and the standards set by Breath of the Wild. It improved on a lot of stuff that was lacking in Breath of the Wild. And now we've got Tears of the Kingdom, which is going to be another step up, which is good for everyone, for the whole gaming community, because it's going to set yet another standard, because if there's one thing I'm tired of is the same open world games over and over again.
Yes.
Like the Far Cry's, the what's it called? Like there's been just, the Ubisoft
formula,
stereotypical formula from Ubisoft, which they can just crank out every 2 years or so. And I'm not saying I don't enjoy those games. I do, but they don't stick with me for the rest of my life. I'm going to forget about those games when I'm like 50. I won't even give it a second thought anymore. Whereas Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring,
they'll stay with me forever.
Forever. Yeah. I will always remember my first time stepping onto the Great Plateau. I will always remember my first time entering like Stormvale Castle and just being completely scared and intimidated because I was way too underleveled and or finding my first catacombs, or those are the type of adventures that really that differentiate it from the rest of the gaming sphere in that moment.
I saw some developers, I don't remember where I saw this. This was on Twitter somewhere. I didn't save it anywhere, but there were Western developers that were looking at this, programmers even, that were looking at the Ultra Hand and the Fuse mechanic, and they're like, this is crazy. Like Nintendo just screwed us all. Like they just screwed us all because they've set this whole standard that like everybody else is like 5 years behind. Like there's no. I was looking, it's like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I see. Squirm. You increase your standards of quality so that the industry improves.
Well, even games such as like Minecraft, everyone wanted to then have the crafting and procedurally generated worlds. It's just these games show up, and then all of a sudden they just like revolutionize what you can do with video games. And it's amazing how like Tears of the Kingdom is doing what Breath of the Wild did.
Right.
And I'll be completely honest, I wasn't sure if Tears of the Kingdom would be like something that could become like a game of the year, because I figured, oh well, Breath of the Wild, obviously it had such an impact, and usually the sequel to a game like that, it's not as big because it's a sequel. But like from the trailer and gameplay demonstration, it's like, okay, yeah, it definitely has the chance to win again game of the year.
Not only is it that, but it's more like I was convinced it couldn't possibly reach Breath of the Wild sales. Breath of the Wild sales were astonishing. Like you would see it top the charts month after month after release. But now I'm almost like done a complete 180, and now I'm sure it can. Like I'm almost sure it can top Breath of the Wild sales. It's so.
Didn't it already like surpass the pre-orders?
I think so. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And
that was
Breath-
before, I think, the recent trailer, right?
yeah,
Right.
plus
Right.
plus Breath of the Wild had the advantage of being on 2 systems and being a system seller too. So
Yeah.
I think
I'm completely 180. I think it'll outsell Breath of the Wild.
yeah. Well, I hope so for sure. Well, to be fair, it's also one of the first times, because this is definitely not the first sequel in the series, like direct sequel. There's been a few that come close to be, which can be considered like a direct sequel, like Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is the first time where it's so much bigger. Like with Majora's Mask, they went smaller, less dungeons, smaller, more focused world. But with this game, it's gonna be Breath of the Wild plus all this other stuff,
Right.
and there's enough, at least from what I've seen, there's enough changes to the overworld, which we don't even know for sure yet what that's gonna entail. Like, are we gonna explore Hyrule and the Ancient Past as well as Zelda? We don't know.
Yeah.
They might keep that a secret.
Sorry, I'll just quickly add this. HMK had posted just like obviously how hype this was and how much they showed us, and I had responded to him, and I feel like this is a comment is very relevant to the whole what we haven't seen yet. But if Nintendo was willing to show that much in the trailer, imagine the amount of stuff they are willing to not show us.
Yeah.
We saw, because if there's so much in the trailer, so it makes you think, okay, but imagine the amount of content they're choosing not to reveal.
Much of what the trailer shows is like just implications, and I'm not sure where the implications lead. Like it could go anywhere. Like you see all this stuff, and I'm like, the world is so much different than I thought it was. The mechanics, just the companion. Okay, just take something like the companions. Okay, that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so you have companion characters with you. They have tiers. So what does that mean? Does that mean that they're going to follow us around and we can use their tier powers only when they're with us? Or that we'll need to clear a dungeon with them, kind of like in Wind Waker? Like, I don't know. I don't know what it means, is the problem. Do you guys have thoughts on that?
You go at first, Will.
So could you just quickly repeat the question?
Sure. Like, so Sidon is with you. You see a clip in the thing. He's with you. He seems to be in a Zora ruin kind of thing. I'm not sure if that's in Zora's domain or if it's in a sky island that looks kind of like Zora ruins. But the background looks very dungeony. There's like there's a puzzle that you can see in the background. There's like grime on the floor, and Sidon's with you. He's attacking, and we know that he has one of the tiers. The tiers probably give you magical powers. Is he going to be like Wind Waker type companion that you need to clear this dungeon with, and then maybe after the dungeon you get his tier power or something like that?
So one thing unique about the both shots where we see Tulin and Sidon with Link is they have this like blue strainy stuff coming from them. So I'm wondering if that indicates a partner that you may even be able to have a bit of control over. But in the shot where he's in that area with the ruins, which I saw the background, it looks like you can see a bit of what may be like the tail fin of Zora's domain, but it's really high up, so it looks like it's just a separate ruin above that area or something. Like you say, it might be a dungeon. But as far as I remember, he doesn't have the tier on his arm in those shots. So I have a feeling that you're going to go to each individual place that is suffering from their own, problems. For example, the Stormcloud in Hebra, where every shot we see with Tulin, aside from the one where he's with all the other 3, like, champions, quote unquote, they're all in Hebra. So you go to the Hebra to solve the Rito issue. Tulin accompanies you, and then on the way, you get the tier for Tulin. That's one of the goals, solving the crisis and then getting... And with Sidon, everywhere you see, it looks like it's above Zora's domain. In fact, that the trailer shots where we saw that stuff, which we all thought was like a malice going up to the islands, We only ever see 3 of them in every single shot, and it's all but confirmed that it's that stuff leaking from the islands. So that stuff is probably what the Zoras are going to deal with, meaning that it's only found that issue of the Malice strands or whatever. It's only in Lanayru, and in that case, it's probably like poisoning the river. One of those sources is going directly into the East Reservoir Lake where Ruta was. And that is one of the water sources that flows right into the domain. So the Zora probably are dealing with a poison issue. You accompany Sidon to get his tier. There's a possibility of the Gerudo Desert. Maybe there's the sinkholes, but also it looks like Gerudo Town might be engulfed in a sandstorm. So that's the issue Gerudo Town is dealing with. You'll probably have to be with Riju getting that tier. And then, of course, Death Mountain. There's a comparison shot where one of the areas, it's completely drained of lava. Part of the reason is because it is stated in game that Vah Rudania caused more lava to appear, but it just straight up isn't there. Like, there's no lava whatsoever. So maybe that has to do with the Malice erupting from Death Mountain. You can even see in that shot where Link is using recall on the Octorok, he has a old wooden shield equipped. Normally in the climate, that would burn. It is not burning. Death Mountain has changed drastically.
Oh.
So then you'll probably... And it looks like there might be a tunnel in that shot, and I checked the comparison that RMFH posted. Conveniently, there was lava flowing down like a waterfall right over that tunnel area. So the draining of it is revealing new spots. The dungeon might also be where you have to go up to the Death Mountain crater into the Malice area because, the lava in the crater probably also has gone down, revealing new stuff. I also wonder if the dungeons might be split. For example, we see Sidon and Link fighting on floating islands, so the issue that they have to solve is in the Sky Islands. The same for Hebra. The Storm Cloud, you see Link with Tulin, it's in the sky. However, we saw a structure rising in the Gerudo Desert, which might be, related to Arbiter's Grounds, but that could mean that for the Riju quest, Link is going to have to go underground for that.
Right.
And we've already seen the clips of the areas that look like they're underground in Elden, so I have a feeling that it will be split, where 2 of the regions, the solution will be in the sky somewhere, and then the 2 other regions, the solution might be underground.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to talk about dungeons. I want to talk about dungeons. Like,
there's a lot of stuff.
Like that's my main thing. I'm the dungeon guy. I really like dungeons.
Yeah.
But
Same here.
Did you want to add anything in Monster Maze before we get into the dungeon talk?
Well, the original question was mostly about the companion stuff, or like, do we need to clear like these areas with these new characters? You made the comparison to Wind Waker, for example. Well, to me, the most optimal outcome would be if there's like options, because when it comes to dungeon crawling, I like to be alone. That's just my thing. Like a lone dungeon crawler going into this spooky place and figuring it out. In fact, the dungeons in the Wind Waker were kind of tainted for me because you constantly had to carry these other characters around, and I just don't like that feeling of not being alone. You're just with this other character. So for me, the best option would be if it's literally optional. So either you can choose that they will follow you inside that dungeon, or even better, if there's going to be some sense of co-op in the game, that a player too can control that character for a short amount of time.
That would just be ridiculously incredible. Like, that would be...
It would.
I've often thought about, when you play Breath of the Wild, I've thought about the quietness of it and how, like, there's these encampments and there's these things to do. And it's like, man, it would be really fun if I had, like, the ability to co-op with a buddy. He could come into my world and he help me clear this encampment, help me clear these areas. We wander around and have fun with it. Like, that's a whole nother, like 50 hours of gameplay just by itself if they added that for me.
Oh yeah. As long as it's optional,
Right.
Everybody plays games in a different way, and when it comes to single player adventure games, I don't know, like for example with Fallout, I didn't interact with the companions that you had that could follow you around. I didn't bother with them.
Right.
I like to be Mad Max going through this world alone. But
Not
you
even
know,
the dog.
options. Well, in the beginning, yeah,
Right.
in the beginning. But I figured this world is too dangerous for a dog.
Okay, dungeons. Do you guys think that what we've seen are the dungeon equivalents? Like, do you think the lava cavern that we saw underneath, well, in underground somewhere, and the Zora area with Sidon, and maybe the temple thing rising out of the sand, do you think those are dungeons or dungeon equivalents?
The temple has to be like a dungeon.
Yeah.
That definitely. I'm not sure if like when Link's running in that underground magma cavern, if he's already in the dungeon, or if the structures in the distance are like the actual outside of the dungeon. You can see plenty of minecarts around, or minecart rails in the background, weaving like into those structures, and you can see later on Link riding the minecart fighting the new tier construct. You can see that like some of the minecart rails are also weaving into buildings, so that might be taken at around the same spot.
Like
It
the
looks
same way, like you mean like in the same way the fire temple was inside Death Mountain Crater, but that's where the entrance was.
Right.
Yeah. And there's also a bit where you can see one of those trees with a green glowing bulge near the end of the shot. So I'm not sure if that's supposed to be that same area that we saw in the past teaser, or if it's just the same type of tree located somewhere else. Either way, that means like huge sections, which is amazing. But there's also, it looks like they are going to have some other dungeons that might be like open air.
Right.
Like because when Link ascends with Tulin on that, using that ship sail trampoline thing, you can see a like a shrine in the distance, which makes me think that's the starting point, and a series of platforms. So it looks like he might have sort of a platforming segment where the whole goal is to go as high as possible. Maybe he like enters the Hebra storm cloud from the very top because it's too like powerful to just walk through or something. But yeah, and then the Sidon, because like that creature that they fight, maybe that like the dungeon isn't in the Hebra storm cloud. It's just that's where like the boss is possibly. But with Sidon as well, it's up in the floating islands, and again, it gives off like an open air element. But I don't know what else that building in close to Arbiter's grounds could be. It has to be like a dungeon. So the question is, are we gonna have it also follow a bit more of like an open format, or is it gonna be more traditional?
Loading screen into a different area kind of thing.
Yeah.
What do you think, Monster Maze?
Well, I think if they, I agree. By the way, 100%. There's dungeons. Just all the evidence seems to point to that. But like Will says, are they going to be more traditional dungeons? And I think yes and no, because obviously you cannot go all the way back to the classic formula, not with the type of moveset that Link has in this game. That's just not possible. You cannot expect him to put up a wall and suddenly he cannot pass anymore, because he can climb anything. He has the paraglider now. So an Ocarina of Time type of dungeon, or Twilight Princess type of dungeon, would be cleared by Breath of the Wild Link or Tears of the Kingdom Link in like a second. Those types of obstacles are not going to work anymore now.
Well, just to be fair, like shrines restricted your ability to do a lot of things. Like you couldn't use Rivali's Gale, for instance. You can't climb the walls of the shrines in Breath of the Wild. So they could put limitations like that in a dungeon. That
is true. I hope they don't resort to like cheap, like unexplained ways where it's like, oh no, for some reason you cannot climb this wall. I always thought that was, I understood why it was there, but then I don't know. It always felt a bit weird to me that they, not that I really care about the lore, like, well, that wall is like, has like some sort of special
smooth. It's so smooth you can't climb it.
Yeah, and meanwhile you can climb ice
right
with your bare hands.
Right.
But I think there's ways to get around it without restricting the player to that degree. Just by having more verticality, I think we already saw kind of a a hint to that, where it's like he's going down this tube with lasers all around, and he's like using a wingsuit, and that might be inside of a dungeon too. I don't know, but I just want to see them creating dungeons that work within the context of the game, and don't have to restrict you all of a sudden to make it work. Because that doesn't feel as natural to me for some reason.
Well, I get that. I wouldn't think that it's any more restricting, because even the well, I already mentioned the shrines, but even the what are those things called? I try and forget them. I hate them so much.
The divine beasts.
The divine beasts. Yes. Even the divine beasts, you couldn't climb up their walls or scale them. So there were limitations on them too. And a lot of the times you can find clever ways around the shrines using your Sheikah Slate powers. You can find clever ways to do the things, but sometimes you just need the small key that's in the shrine. Sometimes the only way to get through it is with a small key, or solving the puzzle the intended way. So it's great that I think it's great that there are often multiple solutions, but I don't always expect them to like intend multiple solutions and design multiple solutions. Sometimes if they want to just put a small key and make you get it and use it to open a door, I think I'm fine with that. My hope...
Yeah, but I do think you can do that without restrictions, though. At least as little restrictions as possible. Because obviously if you're in a closed room, it doesn't matter if you can climb or not. You're not getting in and out unless you use the front door. But like a prime example would be Hyrule Castle. Hyrule Castle was as close as to a classic Zelda dungeon that we got in Breath of the Wild, and you could use anything. Clearly, you could also go straight to Ganon within a minute if you had the Zora outfit, or if you just climb up, like you have a lot of stamina, you just climb your way up. But if it's more like a puzzle that you have to solve, whereas like there's a closed door here, which you need, like just to mention, or just to give an example, you could just walk into the Sanctum and fight Ganon. But what if that door had been closed when you got into Hyrule Castle? Like initially when you come in, there's like a boss key door there, which doesn't allow you to progress and immediately fight Ganon. And you have to go inside the basement to do this and solve a puzzle there. And you get a small key from here, which leads to that other... Because Hyrule Castle is massive, and it was pretty fun to explore that place, but it was all optional. So I could see them taking that concept a bit further and turning it into a more classic Zelda dungeon, but with the mobility of Breath of the Wild, in this case, Tears of the Kingdom, in mind.
The way they could do that is, let's say there's a dungeon, okay, and when Link first, one of the rooms, it's locked, okay, and around that spot, there's a really powerful enemy. Now, you could fight that enemy, and they drop a key, and you could get through. Let's say there's another alternative where instead you could do a little platforming sequence and then enter from that way. That would give you like multiple options. So like, so you could take the quote unquote shortcut by just defeating an enemy with a key, but it might actually be more difficult than just doing a little platform sequence, So that's a way they could add a bit more like alternate entrances into the same spot.
My hope for Tears of the Kingdom, from what I've seen, is that we both have like this open air area, like you mentioned the Zora's Domain thing. It looks like there's a puzzle there. Like it looks like there's some kind of water puzzle going on in the background. It looks like maybe you can push orbs into it for some reason. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, but it does look like there's a puzzle up there in the open air section. But then also maybe it unlocks an actual like dungeon. Like if that's the only kind of dungeon there is, and the exterior and it's completely open air and it's part of the natural environment, that's fine. I'm already happy. It's thematically different. The Zora place looks very different than the underground lava place, which looks very different than whatever the interior of that desert temple thing is sure to look like. I'm already good. Visually distinct. Hopefully there's different music when you go into these areas that plays. That's all I wanted. I'm fine.
Yeah, I agree with that fully.
That's all. I'm fine with just that. It would be cool though, like if I was going to be a little greedy, if they would also give me open air that leads into a dungeon. Kind of, you mentioned Death Mountain. You go through the volcano area of Death Mountain, and that leads you into the dungeon, and then you get to the dungeon proper. Something like that would not go to waste with me. That'd be awesome.
It would be amazing, yeah. And I still feel like, even though the shrines didn't really do it for me as replacements for dungeons in Breath of the Wild, I do think it would be nice to see those little micro challenges come back too. Because I know that there's plenty of people who appreciated them, especially people who don't play games for hours and hours upon end. They just need to take their kids to school. Oh, let's just do a quick shrine,
Little
take
micro
the kids to
dungeon.
school, come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did make the game a lot more accessible for people. So I hope it's going to have a mix of both.
Right.
Just be the best of both worlds. Then that way the hardcore dungeon crawlers among us still have our fix, and the micro challenges will be able to satisfy others.
All right, I'm looking at the time. Before we get off, I want to talk about some of the theories that I've been hearing. Let me just shoot some off at you, and you guys can tell me your thoughts. We talked about the mural already. What do you think about the Ganondorf being the hero in the mural, and then Ganondorf's going to try and break out of the demise cycle, that he's actually going to be a good guy and by the end of the game, something like that? What do you guys think?
I don't know. I mean, he has one of the tiers, and the tiers do seem to be connected to the sages. So, like, at least it does question how he got it in the first place. Like, was he, like, for some reason, a sage? Did he steal it from someone?
Maybe he took it from Yunobo.
I think that's the more likely option, that he took the Goron tier or something, which could explain why Death Mountain is by far hit the hardest. He just went there first.
And why Yunobo isn't seen yet in the promotional materials, or
So one of the first things I thought was like, oh, maybe it's an entirely new Goron character, but I feel like it probably is going to be Yunobo. And the reason they hid him was either because he had some sort of like glow up or something.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Or it's kind of like a glow up, but it's also a lot more story related. It might also be to hide the fact that maybe he doesn't have his tier. Because we're just assuming that, oh yeah, he probably has a tier as well. So it could also be because he doesn't have one that they're hiding it.
I also think it's Yunobo that's going to, be another person there, another companion, maybe eventually get his tier or something like that. But that's because it seems like all the people that are following Link are champion descendants. And it makes
so like
he wouldn't have a descendant yet. He seems like he'd be too young to have a kid like Teba. So like there's no one to replace him really. It would have to be him.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that is like the other reason that I'm starting to think it's just but because it's never outright stated if Riju is a descendant of Urbosa, but we see her use Urbosa's. Yeah, because I don't think it's ever mentioned. I think she is. I'm just saying one that's never.
I think it is mentioned. I think Zeltic sent it to me. It's like really obscure somewhere in one, like from Creating a Champion or something. There's like one line that says her ancestor Urbosa.
Right. Well, either way, she uses Urbosa's Fury.
Yeah.
And then we have I guess Sidon doesn't have Mipha's Grace, but obviously he's related. And then Yunobo would have, he straight up says that he inherited Daruk's protection, but Teba is the interesting case because he doesn't have any sort of like Rivali's Gale, but we find out that Rivali himself made that power. And while it's not obviously canon, I think in Age of Calamity you do see Tulin kind of make his own sort of Rivali's Gale.
Oh yeah,
it's like called Tulin Tornado, I think.
Yeah, Tornado.
that is still sort of like linked to a champion power, So it's just kind of it's interesting. So that's why I think they all have a sort of
I just thought of something.
Relation.
What if they're what if they're temporary summons? They're not actually companions. What if they're temporary summons? Like you remember you talked about how there's like light coming out of Sidon,
Yeah.
like blue light. That sounds like the kind of particle effect that you would give like a temporary summon. He comes in and you see him do a combination attack, and then now that I'm thinking about Riju's or Bosa's Fury, you could summon them for select things. Maybe they're also companions during certain story events, but maybe they're also summons that you can bring out uh, for a temporary attack or something like that.
Yeah. Well,
That
something
would work.
interesting that a Twitter user pointed out to me is I haven't actually like gone back to double check yet, but they mentioned how those blue strains, it looks exactly like the thing that comes from those bomb runes when Link pulls them out.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
So obviously that means that Link will be able to throw Tulin and he'll explode. But yeah, so it might be related to like a summon thing, or
Yeah.
who knows.
I think it is pretty clear now that like it's all based on ancestry
Yes.
with these new people.
Yes.
Because I was also a little bit on the fence about that, especially because Teba doesn't look anything like Rivali. And of course, Nintendo avoids the subject of like how, like, we know people have children, but we don't see the thing that happens before that. So they keep it very PG, which it can sometimes be a bit confusing. Like, did Rivali have a wife? Didn't he die during the calamity when he was still pretty young? Like, how did he have
He was a stud.
ancestors?
He slept
Of
around.
course he was. Of course he was. Plus, it does, even if it doesn't really match, they can just say that he did.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, at some point he did have offspring, and Rito are also said to be much shorter lived than the other races in Hyrule.
Yeah.
Which could explain why Teba is not joining the gang this time. Because first of all, he was hurt pretty bad. Like, his arm was like messed up in Breath of the Wild. And he was already a dad. So he's probably just too old now. If Breath of the Wild, or if Tears of the Kingdom takes place about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years after Breath of the Wild, then he could just be no longer in a fighting shape.
Right.
Due to his age, injuries, other reasons. So that's why Tulin is now the one picking up the torch from his dad.
That means we'll probably see him in his in his house or over in Rito Village and talk and reminisce. That'd be cool. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, maybe he's the new
Elder.
village leader. Yeah, the village elder. Because that owl guy already looked pretty old.
There you go. Yeah.
He may have abdicated, or wait, that's what a queen does, or a king. But he may have stepped down. We also see the same weapons returning time and time again, because there's that shot of that new goat-like figure, and like on the side of him is an adult Rito warrior, and on the other side you can see it's clearly a Gerudo, and both of them have. One of them has the Great Eagle's Bow, and the other one almost certainly has the Scimitar of the Seven, which are the same weapons Urbosa and Rivali used, respectively, in Breath of the Wild, and now are being used by Tulin and by...
Right.
Well, what's the other one? I always blank on names.
I don't remember.
Riju?
Riju,
Yes.
yeah. But Riju even has 2 now. I don't know where she got a second scimitar.
They were able to make replicas easily. Every time it
Yeah,
broke,
that's true.
Probably. But I do find it interesting she has 2 of them. She's like, defense, what's that?
So you mentioned the goat faced guy. Let's talk about him. I just recently put out a video the other day talking about the dragon theory, that he's actually a dragon. I saw also was messaged by Limcube, I think, on Twitter. He's been pushing the dragon theory pretty hard. What do you guys think about that? That him and the girl that a lot of people think is Hylia. What do you think about the dragon first?
I do think that it would, it would make sense in turn. Like, this goes back to the whole talk about how Breath of the Wild has a lot of unsolved mysteries, and Tears of the Kingdom might do it. Monster Maze already linked the sages possibly to the heroine legend, but there's also the whole dragons. Like, they play a huge part not only in the obviously like the Zonai motif stuff, but like the 3 that fly around. There's that mysterious 4th dragon, which either is a new one or like maybe Farash has a different look, but I'm pretty sure it's a new dragon. I'm pretty sure they're going to be more relevant, and I do wonder if the new dragon may somehow be connected to that, goat creature that we see, and maybe even that dragon will like speak to Link at some time, maybe during the beginning. But I'm pretty sure I do believe the connections to the dragon.
Yeah, same. I think there is a chance
And sorry, in regards to like, I think someone mentioned in creating a champion that the dragons were kind of based off of goats. So like you can call it, a goat man or something like that. And it's still like, it also is
Fits.
still connected to, fits. Exactly. Yeah.
The big question is, how would that work though? Because I am pretty darn confident that the green hand that is like latched onto Ganondorf's chest, like the place where with the thing that's keeping him sealed away, I'm sure that's that guy, that goat guy, because he's the only one who has a bracelet similar to that on him.
Mhm.
And so basically in the present, that's all what's left of him, and that's going to eventually possess Link's arm, whether it's like as a spirit or... So how is he in two places at the same time? Like he's both an arm, like
He's
possessing Link's arm?
Well, maybe he isn't in two places. He's in two times at the same time. So in the present with Link, he's the arm, and that's with Link. And in the past, he's with Zelda, and he's just not... He's not in the present in any other form other than in the arm form.
I think I think he's talking about when I mentioned the connection to the dragon, right? Or
the dragon thing, because we see a shot
that
where
specific dragon.
yeah, because we see a shot where Link is in the sky with the bracelet, and you can see the dragon that new dragon, because there's 4 now apparently, because it doesn't look like any of the other 3 dragons. Which, to be fair, makes sense, because in Skyward Sword you had the 3 dragons on the surface, and then you had Levius, who was like the guardian of the sky. So maybe this new dragon is like, that's his domain, whereas Farosh was more tied to Farron, and obviously Elden had one. And so, but I'm not sure. Maybe, because obviously that's a conclusion that I draw from the notion that he is a spirit that will possess Link's arm, so that goat man will just go inside Link's arm. Could also be that it's just a bracelet that he passes on, and he turns into a spirit and just flies off, and there you go, dragon. But I'm not too sure.
I'm not sold on any of the particulars. Like, I'm not sure I believe all the things that Limcube believes about it, but I am sold on the idea that it's a dragon just from appearances alone. The hand looks a lot like dragon hands. The makeup around his face looks really similar to if you close up into the eyes, the patterns are almost identical, and there's like the paint right beneath the eyes, just it's the same pattern. So he could just be trying to look like a dragon. Maybe he is a Zonai and he's trying to look like a dragon. But I
think that might be the case, actually. I think he is maybe of Zonai descent, because it's the only race so far we've seen that we haven't seen before or since. And it's just, whereas that woman, for example, the mystery woman that a lot of people think is Hylia, she just looks like a normal person, to be honest.
She looks like a normal person with longer ears. Yeah. So
yeah, in fact, her darker skin tone could even suggest that she's somehow connected to the people of Lurelin, which are classified as Hylians, but with a slightly more tint to them.
Isn't there a theory that the people of Lurelin are connected to Zonai?
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons why I thought that she's a Zonai and not the guy. The guy's a dragon, and she's a Zonai, and there's a Zonai race that looks like her. That's my current working theory. But
could be, yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts on her? Do you think she's Hylia, or what's your impression?
No.
Not Hylia for me, at least. I am leaning more towards her being an ancient Zelda. Not the one from the tapestry, but from way before.
Yes.
It's not...
Same
what
here.
she wears is not the exact same as what Zelda's wearing. However, like, cause like even the part on her forehead, it's a different, it's obviously not the same as the one the tanned figure is wearing, but it's still the same style of thing. And she has the lotus earring things. She also has, like, I think those bracelets and the necklace, and she's wearing the tear in the same spot. And you can see how a lot of these quote unquote sages like Sidon, Tulin, Riju, they're where they wear their tears are all exclusive. Riju has the earring, Sidon also has it on the back of his hand, Tulin has it on his talon, but also that cutscene of that Goatman figure with the two behind, that one Rito that looks obviously like an adult and not Tulin, they're wearing it in the same spot. So each of these sages already has that exclusive area where they have the tear, which further shows that it can't be a coincidence that both Zelda and this figure are wearing it on the necklace in the same spot. So I believe it's an ancient Zelda.
Yeah, that's my assumption. I'm so happy to hear you guys say that. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
I'm totally down for that one, because it just makes sense, you know. Every time Ganondorf awakens, there's always a princess.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think Don, I think you had a slightly different alternative. I think, right?
Me?
When we last talked about the figure, or do you think it is the Zelda?
No, I think it is.
Okay.
It is.
All right.
Yeah. Some people have called them Zonai Zelda. I'm not willing to go there just yet, because I feel like the other guy could also be the one who's the Zonai. You know, both are an option. I'm pretty sure all the other races are just going to be the ones that we're, you know, judging from the historical record of how the sages tend to work. Usually there's a Goron among them. There's a Zora. So even though we haven't seen them yet in the trailer right now, I'm sure that whole group is made up of 7 original sages,
right?
Which includes that Gerudo and the Rito that we see behind Goat Guy, and then there's probably going to be a Goron, a Zora, maybe a Sheikah representative as well. We just haven't seen them yet, because
there's so much to talk about. It's crazy.
Yeah, because we are 1 tier short. Because the one that Ganondorf has on his head is red or green, and we've also seen a green version on Tulin. But I can see that there's probably also maybe a purple one, and they could involve Paya. Bring my girl Paya into the story.
There was a Sheikah sage in Ocarina of Time too, so that would involve a shadow gem too.
Yeah.
And the figure as well has a third eye.
Yeah, he has a Sheikah eye on his head.
Just straight up is a third eye. I remember when the September one came out, I was constantly on the fence of whether or not it looked like a third eye on the mural. But then when I saw Zelda Lore's analysis, he had mentioned it, so I'm like, oh, okay. So it's one of those moments where you see someone else mention it, you're like, okay, so I'm not crazy.
It's very much a Sheikah eye. It's a closed Sheikah eye, and he has the pattern of the tear on his nose. It's just right there, and
it's literally an eye.
Yeah.
The other Sheikah, they just have like a painting.
Mm-hmm.
This is just straight up a third eye.
Yeah.
He's all seeing.
So so. The best thing that came out of this is, I'm glad that Monster Man mentioned that. It's like there's no reason that Ganondorf attacks something and there's not a Zelda around, or a Link or a Zelda around. That doesn't happen. Like if we're going by Demise's curse, he's chasing them around. Like that's why he reincarnates into places, even if Ganondorf doesn't know that. So you're telling me the Zonai attacked the civilization? I mean, sorry, Ganondorf attacked the Zonai civilization. You see it in the mural. He's sending his legions, his hordes off to battle the Zonai. And you're telling me that there's no Zelda around? There's no Link around in this situation? And they managed to beat him and seal him away? Nah.
Even better is it adds more context to that mural, because now the possibility comes where the one like hovering in that mural is actually this ancient Zelda, and it's not related to the current Princess Zelda. There's also this doesn't count as a leak, but on the back of the download card for Tears of the Kingdom Ninja, there is a shot where we straight up see this ancient Zelda with who we can assume is that figure that goat man.
Right.
So
Yeah, it is.
And that would further suggest that the two on that mural from the September are those same characters. And it also makes you wonder, well, if this Zelda was depicted hovering over a bit of malice, then could they have actually somehow like lost?
So I looked at that today. I'm going to make a short on that later, but
okay.
I looked at that today. If you look at the Zelda that's hovering over a bit of malice, there's like a figure to her right, and we didn't have context for that at the time, but now that the trailer came out and we look at Ganondorf and what he's wearing in his trailer, that's Ganondorf to her right. Like it's he's wearing the clothing. You can see his dress and his belt looks exactly like Ganondorf's thing in the mural. So he's right on top of her while she's levitating. So maybe that's correct. Maybe they did lose.
Mm-hmm. And well, also just a shot of like the malice overwhelming the soldiers at the very start. And when you look at the blood, like,
but he did get sealed though.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably going to be kind of like the fallen hero timeline where something went wrong and they had to resort to sealing him away because they don't like kill him,
right?
You know, So something must have gone wrong. Maybe they somehow used the power of a tear to, seal him under the castle because they couldn't quite kill him. And, a lot of us have mentioned how Zelda, she might have actually picked up that recall tear in the present because her hands close as she's falling, and it's one of the spots that glows. So maybe it has to do with the seal on Ganondorf, and maybe she picked it up and somehow messed up things, and then she was sent to the past with the power of recall. There's just so many, possibilities. It's
and what's even crazy. What's even crazier is we know that this timeline where Zelda's being sent to, or time period, I should say, because I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be a closed time loop, like in Skyward Sword. It's not going to result in like a split. But that time period that Zelda is in, we know what that's going to lead to. That's going to, like that scene where Ganondorf is underground with the malice and the hand clutched to his chest. That's the aftermath of that battle. And that battle has to go that way. Because if it doesn't, Zelda would never find Ganon's corpse, never be sent to the past, but she's already in the past, which that would be that would be a paradox.
Now, hang on.
So, shenanigans.
Nintendo doesn't care about that. They don't care. And I'll prove it to you right now. I'll prove it to you right now because in Skyward Sword, you go back to the distant past and you kill Ancient Demise, and yet you still had to fight him off, the imprisoned several times, but you would not have to fight off the imprisoned.
True.
True. They don't care about that.
I just hope that this time they thought about it a little bit better. So maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but I'm just gonna go for the best possible option.
We are running out of time. I really hate that because you brought up the timeline loop, and I am not a timeline loop supporter. I hate the timeline loop theory, even though I think there actually has a lot going for it. Like more and more things get piled up in its favor, but I still resist it. I hate it so much. And because I spoke out against the idea of Ganondorf trying to break free of the cycle, I spoke out against the cycle breaking theory. And because of that, I have a bunch of timeline loop people in my comment section, because it's all going to circle back and it's going to be close the loop with, and the next thing will be Skyward Sword. And I'm like, ew, disgusting timeline loop people in my comment section. Gross.
No, I don't think it has anything to do with that. I just mean that these two time periods there is time travel in this game that's pretty much a given by now.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the story, everything and everyone is going to be back in their own respective timeline where they belong. So there's not going to be like a weird split where it's like two alternate realities or anything like that. It's more like self-fulfilling prophecy. This Zelda gets sent to the past, does stuff there, which ultimately leads to the victory in the present.
I see what you mean now. So it's a loop that continues at the end.
Yeah, it's like I think that's how they call it, like a closed time loop or something like that. I don't know what the exact terminology
I see what you mean now. Yeah.
It doesn't...
having Link be the one, like they mentioned, literally like he's the last hope. Having him solve it in the future kind of helps explain it.
Yeah.
if they had the solution, if they did it in the past, that would cause a lot of complications. It's the fact that Zelda is stuck in the past, but they still need to rely on Link to actually do it in the present.
Maybe by healing the Master Sword in the past with Zelda. That seems to be what she's
Yeah.
doing.
Well, that seems to be the theme in this game. Seems to be that Zelda is in the past. They cannot change what's going to happen in the future. She cannot just like literally kill Ganondorf there and suddenly he will like
Right.
disappear from existence in the present. Because in order to lead up to that reality, everything needs to happen the same way. So Ganondorf will get sealed. He will be stuck on the ground. Calamities are going to happen, and eventually it's going to lead up to the events of Breath of the Wild and then Tears of the Kingdom. But she can influence how the present, like the future will play out, because let's say, like you said, the Master Sword is either broken and the key to solving it is in the past, or maybe the tears, the location of the tears has been lost to time. Zelda could go to the, like, since she is in the ancient past.
Do you think she'll
she
be
could find
playable
out-
in the past to do these things?
I'm not sure. I
I don't
don't
want to get my hopes up, but it would be pretty amazing.
I hope so, but I think there might also just be a chance that there's going to be these yellow blobs that we saw in the delay footage.
Yeah.
And it's just a place where you can briefly interact with Zelda. They can communicate over time.
That's what
over
I'm
the
thinking.
course of between these two time periods. And because obviously she is stuck there to an extent, because if she could just easily return to her own timeline, you would
She
think
would just do that.
She would have done. Yeah, or pick up the Master Sword in that timeline, send it over to the future, bam, Master Sword is fixed. So she doesn't seem to have as much of a control over the future, but she can subtly influence it by, for example, by sharing information, about where the tears are located in Link's time, for example, because those have been lost for thousands and thousands of years. Nobody knows where those tears are.
Yeah.
I just want, before we go anywhere, I just want to point out to the audience why I hate the loop, the Skyward Sword loop theory so much. It's because there's no hope then. You know, like I may be against breaking the cycle in principle, but there should at least be the potential of breaking the cycle at some point. If you close loop it, demise wins. You know, if you close loop and you really are stuck in an endless sea of blood and darkness for all time, and all your descendants, because you've created a closed time, you've created a time loop where that goes back to Skyward Sword. That's like a terrible, terrible idea. I just think it's narratively unsatisfying.
It's eternal suffering and eternal bloodshed.
Yeah. I just think it's a bad story, and I don't think Nintendo has bad writers. So that's my main argument. It's not that I don't see a lot of the evidence that keeps piling on for that theory. I just think it's a bad story, and I don't think that they were going to tell a bad story. So that's my argument.
I think it's a similar case with Ganondorf. Obviously, I understand why people want Ganondorf to be good, because, you know, he's a fan favorite character, and especially with the way he looks now, they're like the Daddy Ganondorf memes are already running rampant. I understand where they come from, but you also have to kind of look at the way Nintendo generally writes Zelda stories, and it just doesn't happen very often where like a purely evil character suddenly gets a redeeming factor. Like even Zant at the end dies. It's not like he suddenly does a Darth Vader and is like, I'm gonna join you guys and I'm gonna kill Ganondorf for you guys.
Even the most sympathetic Ganondorf, like Wind Waker Ganondorf, that was reflected. He wasn't. What I like about him, he wasn't going to kill you. Like he literally said he wasn't going to kill Link or Zelda at the end. He just wanted the Triforce to bring Hyrule back to the surface.
Yeah.
So like even that character is not redeemed. You know, he's stuck in his ways. He and the king are things of the past. You know, like that was the theme of the game. It's a theming thing for me. This is not Shin Megami Tensei. You know, this isn't a Persona game. You don't kill gods. You don't escape cycles because they're not a burden to you. The gods are not bad guys in these games. It's not Shin Megami Tensei. That's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, and the same thing goes for the concept of Hylia, because people keep bringing that up, where whenever they see a female figure that looks somewhat ethereal in a way, that it's immediately, oh, that's Hylia. It's like that would completely destroy any purpose from any of the stuff we did in Skyward Sword, because the whole idea behind Hylia is that she needed to become immortal and she basically died. She died
Yeah.
to become mortal,
Right.
because it was the only way to deal with the problems that were. She just basically realized that if she remained a goddess, it would just be an endless battle forever, for all eternity, and there was going to be a lot of bloodshed between. Like she couldn't really save anyone in that way, so she died and gave up her essence that would be passed down through a bloodline, which is Zelda's bloodline.
Yes.
Same with Demise. Demise.
Yeah, his consciousness might be just gone. Like he might just be dead, and his essence, you're right, his hatred, the thing that defines him, is what lives on in Ganondorf and in his further incarnations.
Demise
which is way more effective too.
Demise is more of I believe like a title. So like when Ganondorf does that transformation, he's literally just becoming the Demise. And it's not just Demise's curse; it's the demon tribe's curse.
Right.
And
isn't there something about the translation? In the Japanese, it's more clear that it's the demon tribe's curse, not so much Demise's curse.
Quest with Aaron had a really good video on it. I'm probably gonna go back and rewatch it because I want to freshen up a bit on that topic, because I want to briefly, use it as an argument to why like it's still Ganondorf and it's not just straight up Demise.
He's not being possessed.
I think another reason why people want characters like Hylia to be in is just because it's nice to see, older characters come back. There's some characters we hear about that we never actually see. Like technically, yes, Hylia is Zelda in Skyward Sword, but it's the same like with villains, and even the fact that people want Ganondorf to be good. They just kind of want things to be a bit fresh and not just, here's another evil plan from Ganondorf.
Well, yeah, I totally understand it, but it just doesn't really work with...
Yeah, some things, like with
both,
given how the story goes, you can't have it happen.
Yeah, both Hylia and Demise are basically what's left of them. They're more concepts than they are
there we go.
Characters.
Yes, thank you.
At this point.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I've always struggled to find the words for it, because it is very almost Lovecraftian in a way, where it's like these two beings who have passed on their essence into the world, and now there's bloodshed over them, and they're not really something you can comprehend, which is also why I cannot believe anyone who thinks that the woman we see on that in the new trailer is Hylia, because Hylia was supposed to be this ethereal being that was almost incomprehensibly beautiful. She had wings, and even Demise, when he sees Zelda, is like, wow, you pale in comparison to the splendor of the goddess, or something. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
He's basically saying you ain't got nothing on Hylia.
Yeah, I'm like dancing over here because I've like made that reference so many times, arguing against the Hylia already on my videos.
I mean, I understand it, but it would completely ruin any sense of continuity in the Zelda series if these characters literally just come back as their own characters. They can still manifest through other characters, like we see happening now with Ganondorf.
And the director wrote Skyward Sword. Like the director of Tears of the Kingdom wrote Skyward. That's his story. Like that's his premise. I don't think he wants to like hurt it by doing something like that.
Yeah, it's the same thing as, because I know you said you talked to Limcube. He was also about like this ancient past time period where Zelda is traveling to in Tears of the Kingdom. He speculates that maybe that's even before Skyward Sword. It's like, well, but that would completely mess up the whole backstory of the Master Sword, right? Like, how can there have been a battle against Ganondorf without the Master Sword back then?
Well, at that point, why is Ganondorf back then, like before Demise?
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah,
that kind of stuff just doesn't really work. Which is why in my upcoming video, I'm just devoting a small section of where I try to explain at least some of the history, because you have the original Zelda timeline, and then you have emptiness, and then you had Breath of the Wild. And there were things that happened before Breath of the Wild, but that was still like the original timeline is inconceivably long before Breath of the Wild, so long that it almost doesn't matter anymore, which was a great way for them to kind of do a little reset because the timeline was getting a bit
Clunky.
Clunky,
Yeah.
to say the least.
I'm glad they did.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, and Tears of the Kingdom may not even explain how these two timelines really connect if there's like a drag and break, because it might not even really matter anymore because there's so much time that's in between, and that's why there's references to all the timelines in Breath of the Wild where it's just like new start, new way of formulating or like forming a story.
Full agreement.
Yeah, so the Ancient Past Zelda goes to, which is an event which it is mentioned in Creating a Champion, because Creating a Champion has a timeline of events, which includes like right before 10,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, right before 100 years ago, 100 years ago, and then the present. And then the original timeline, which is just called like the Era of Myth or something.
Yeah.
But there is one phrase where it's like, after Ganondorf was sealed many, many, many times, which happened in the original timeline, he lost his mind and he became Calamity Ganon. And I think that's the event that we're seeing here in the Ancient Past with Zelda in Tears of the Kingdom.
Right.
That's the moment he first transforms into the Calamity.
No, yeah, I completely agree. But I see that we're pretty much out of time, and I'm mindful of that. So I think we should end it here, unless you guys have anything else you want to add before we go.
I don't know. Were there any more theories you wanted our thoughts on, or?
Well, yeah, but Monster May said that he needed to head out around this time.
I can stick around for...
Want to squeeze one more in?
For 15 or 18 more minutes. So 7 p.m. my time, 6:42 right now. 7 p.m. my time, I'm gonna head out, do some groceries, walk the dog, typical life stuff.
Okay, well,
so go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so what about this? How do you think we're gonna start the game? Because in the website, it's now confirmed that we start off in the Sky Islands, and that's our beginning. That place really is our Great Plateau, like a lot of people speculated. But then how does the first trailer where you see Link and Zelda underground exploring and looking and they find Calamity, how does that play in?
I mean, I still assume when they say it starts in the Sky Islands, I don't think that means that there can't be a bit of like cutscene before that.
I am afraid that this is just a fear of mine, that we will start in the Sky Islands and they won't show that scene, and we will see that scene in a memory cutscene, and memory cutscenes will return all over the place.
So you think it's going to be like Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, I was really hoping to avoid the memory cutscenes all over the place, but I'm thinking that like they might just literally start us off there and give us amnesia again and give us memory cutscenes.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't go like that far, because I would love to see the beginning where like Zelda falls in the chasm, and then maybe then it fades black, and then something happens, Link wakes up on the Sky Island.
The thing is that that's a big cutscene that we would have to see. Like, that's a lot of content, and Enuma hates that. Like, he hates that. He fought with he fought with Fujibayashi in Skyward Sword when he put the long cutscenes that actually were criticized in Skyward Sword for being too many cutscenes one after the other. He hated that thing. And in Breath of the Wild, there was like no cutscene. There's like, go on out there, and then you're immediately out there. So I am afraid that they aren't going to give it enough time to marinate with the initial cutscenes to provide us time. This is just a fear of mine. I want to know what you guys think.
Yeah, well, that is a good point now that you bring it up. One thing for sure, though, is like we have that shot in the recent trailer where like Link is grabbing the Master Sword again. So I assume that after Calamity Ganon is done, because like after the end of most Zelda games, you see the hero return the blade to the pedestal. So I guess he returns it. He's like, all right, everything's good. And then later it's like, oh, maybe I should go back and get it, just in case. But you can clearly see that his arm is not damaged there. And it seems a bit redundant to have us get it again at the beginning of the game. So that's why I feel that in particular is going to be like some sort of cutscene we later get, because I do believe we'll get a form of memories back in. But I never considered the possibility of that other one being a memory, and now that you mention it, it might be.
Well, it kind of depends on how it will work, because we already speculated that there's going to be locations where basically when Link and Zelda are in the same location geographically, but in different times they can interact,
Right.
which could be those yellow orbs that we see flying like I said, in the delay
Yes.
footage. So to have that, like multiple of those little interactions on top of memories, seems a bit too much to me.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So, of course, that's based on the fact that we are correct about that, or if it's just that one sequence where that's going to happen with the interaction between Link and Zelda. But I would assume that there's going to be some sort of communication between the two, since they have to plan something for what they're going to do to deal with Ganondorf in the present. But yeah, I hadn't even thought about that personally. I thought it was just going to probably start off with a giant cutscene where it's like it's been 5 years since the calamity.
I would love that.
Hyrule is rebuilding.
I would love that. It would be hype.
Let's hope
Imagine if,
Fujibashi managed to, convince Onuma.
So we know Zelda is probably like, oh man, I spent 100 whole years sealing Calamity Ganon. Nice to finally, have a break. Imagine how she feels when she just sees Ganondorf like awake again. I could just picture like Ganondorf wakes up, Link looks and stares at Zelda. Zelda's just like, what the heck you want me to do about this?
I did my part. I did my 100 years of waiting.
Like, screw this, I'm out.
I am done with this stuff.
Recall.
She just jumps into the chasm herself. She's like, take me away.
Okay, well, another thing. Sword. Why is the sword broken? No one knows why the sword's broken. Why does the malice break the sword?
The malice just like, it could go after the master sword. It could go after the purposely the hand. I don't know. Like, it glows when we see it, so it still has that power to repel evil, but it just shows how much more powerful Ganondorf's malice is in that situation.
Right.
Because it's glowing, so it's like, oh, I'm good, but then the malice just engulfs it.
Yeah.
And you can even see in the trailer, Link's outfit is literally being burned by the malice.
Right.
You see the burn. It's like
it's a good scene. I like that scene a lot.
It is. So
didn't they explain in Breath of the Wild all the damage to the Master Sword that we saw? That's actually from malice, which I thought was rust and just cracks.
Everyone thought it was rust.
But that's totally due to malice. So
I don't remember that.
It is powerful enough.
I didn't remember that happening in Breath of the Wild, but that's interesting. Like that malice has this amount of ability to damage the thing that's supposed to not be damaged by malice.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can assume that Zelda playing it in the pedestal sort of healed it.
Right.
Because it was just sitting there all that time. But there is like a note on creating a champion where it has like a picture, and then I think it's a little note, and then it points towards a blade, and it just mentions like malice or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
But it totally looks like rust. That's what, like, all of us thought it was rust.
That's why we were confused about it back then. But I mean, the Master Sword is also inconceivably old by this point, so we've already seen it kind of lose its edge in Wind Waker. So we know it's not eternal. Right. It has to be upheld by some sort of sacred power.
I think also Zelda's speech implies that the blade is like bound to the hero. So maybe the amount of damage that Link suffered during that attack, because his whole hand turned into malice, maybe that's kind of had an effect on the blade,
right?
Because both of them are connected.
Oh, that's interesting.
And he needs a certain amount of hearts before he can even pull it. So it might just be a connection there. It's super. That was a super old video I had done. I talked a bit about like the state of the Master Sword in the Breath of the Wild. Yeah. So.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, that sounds legit. Last question: do you think Link jumping into the water bubbles implies underwater water exploration?
Oh no! Here this topic again. I mean, obviously, I want underwater exploration, but
I think it might be.
It's a part of me is, thinking like if they want to open up Hyrule and make it feel fresh, having underwater areas would be amazing, because it's similar to like the Death Mountain situation where they were like, okay, we have to make it new. Let's drain all the lava and then have a bunch of openings be revealed, So
Yeah.
like it just makes sense, but I'm still not sure.
There is almost no evidence for it that there
Yeah.
is underwater exploration, but it just would make the most sense out of a
Mhm.
gameplay perspective. Like if they want to up Breath of the Wild even more, there were so many cool mysteries that I wanted to know about. Like what's at the bottom of Lake Hylia?
Right.
And I think in one shot we do see some sort of a vortex in Lake Hylia.
Right. Yep.
So, I mean, I'm down for it. The only worry is it might be a bit too much.
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna have underwater exploration, you also need to do it for the oceans, which are huge.
Huge.
Like the amount of pure terrain that you would have to model and create all that, like a fish and plants and
Maybe they'll put a monster that eats you if you go too far into the ocean area. That would scare
classic
me.
move.
But yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to do it. It's just, would they have had enough time with all the stuff that's already in the game as is?
I feel greedy, like wanting considering how much I've seen and how much I'm already happy with, and how much is already implied, like the dark cavern areas, because the lava area, I mentioned this in a video, the lava area that's in that place where it might be a dungeon is connected to those underground caverns. You see the mushrooms there in the background, you see the tree, the glowing tree thing. So those are connected. So it's even larger, like these caverns are even larger than I thought. So
They're huge.
So if you
and they're very deep down too, because I think the Z-axis
no. That's spoilers. Those are spoilers.
That is.
Oh yeah, that's true. I keep mixing up.
It was
I was like,
the only source is Reddit. So
Yeah.
I was like, wait.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? I'm not talking about the art book or something. Oh, wait, that's also.
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's kind of difficult because the other one is perfectly fine to talk about, the one from the box or
Yes.
the download
yeah,
card.
Yes.
yeah, because that's
But that one-
that's
But that one looks like a leak
It
too,
does.
if you don't know about it.
I've had a lot of people on my comments. I showed that in a video, and a lot of people don't know that that's legit information from Nintendo. So they accuse me of putting leaks. I've had to explain it a couple times.
yeah. It's a bit tricky sometimes, but there's a difference between leaks, spoilers. It barely is even considered like a spoiler. I mean, the most spoilery thing is the fact that I guess we see the goat man with that princess right by side. But still, like that, and some people that is gonna feel spoilery because they want to like stick to trailers.
Yes.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with bringing it up.
That image with the goat man with Paz Zelda, like that just made me think, what if he's a past spirit of the hero? Like what if he's a past hero kind of thing? And,
Well, we have the like it's the exact same bracing as the hand holding down
Yes.
sealing Ganondorf.
Yeah.
So it's and that image as well is a big bit of evidence supporting like the whole talk of the mural. Because you see them side by side, and it's like,
yes.
oh wait, they're having interactions. Oh my gosh,
yeah, and so you
this
see,
actually might be.
and
and
then I thought about the Ouroboros and how it's two dragons like eating each other's tails, chasing after each other, and I'm like, what if he, being dragony as he is, represents one of the dragons? And in Creating a Champion, they talk about how the Zonai worship the dragons and they depict dragons to depict courage in the Triforce. So Link's often used as the symbol of the Triforce of Courage, and he has the hand from that guy. He has the dragon hand. So what if he's also the dragon? So it's the dragon in the past and the dragon in the present,
Yeah,
which would
two
be
dragons,
Link.
yeah.
And that's what the Ouroboros represent. That's a thought that I had. I'm not married to it. It's just a neat idea.
A theory, a game theory,
Right.
Well, one thing we know for sure is that it doesn't represent the whole, what was it called again? What was the most prominent theory about the whole Ouroboros thing before
the
we
cycle?
know?
It's the-
cycle
Yeah,
of-
it was either the cycle of hatred or it was the eternal connection between Hylia and Zelda or something like that. But we know now that it's probably referring to these two different time periods interacting with each other and solving a problem together. which is very it's very nice, and it also explains so much about all the other stuff, like those weird reversed vocals that we keep hearing in all the trailers. So yeah,
The
I think it fits well.
future.
The future.
Monogreen effect probably, but still.
Yeah. I don't know if you know about that. There's like one of those reversed vocals almost sounds like it's saying the future, but it's totally not. But it just kind of sounds like it, and it's just funny.
I didn't know about that, but so many people in my comment section just keep telling me about it that I guess I know about it now. I'm like, but
if you wanna hear it, the clearest, just go to the part where Link's ascending that elevator.
Okay.
And that's when it plays, and then the drop. That's one of my favorite shots, aside from when the music kicks in for after Zelda says Link. It's just like that part of rising the elevator, and then boom, we just see this mysterious figure just standing there, and it's like this is so amazing.
This is so epic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was the moment that I was just really actually the part with the song, the music in that trailer was just phenomenal. The
top notch.
Oh yeah, it did like half of the lifting already.
Yeah. That song part where Zelda says Link and then transitions into, I guess it's not a saxophone. Some people tell me it's an Asian instrument or something, but it sounds like a saxophone. That whole part is amazing, so good.
There are so, like, I just love how many musical references there were as well.
Yes.
The music just kept changing up, the main Zelda theme, Breath of the Wild's main theme.
Hyrule Castle,
Ganondorf's theme, so much stuff.
Cool references all over the place.
I think it might have been the best trailer for a video game I've seen ever. I think the only competition I can think of is maybe the original Elden Ring trailer. I really liked that one. And the E3 Twilight Princess trailer was really hype. It also had excellent music.
Yeah, although knowing what we know now, it was a bit too epic for its own good.
Yes.
Whereas with this game,
let's hope it's not.
Well, with this game, we know that they probably show way too little almost. Where it's like what we said back at the beginning. Like, imagine how much more there isn't in that game, judging by what they've been able to show now, or what they were willing to show now. Whereas with Twilight Princess, like half the stuff we saw in that trailer didn't even exist in the game, at least not in that form.
They really only had that they hadn't done anything. They only had that trailer, and they're like, all right, let's see what they think. And
that was it. I mean, to be fair, a lot of video game companies do that. The most recent example I can think of was Cyberpunk's original trailer. Also had nothing to do with the with the final game, because it's all pre-rendered anyway. And I'm still not sure to what extent the first trailer because that's my second favorite piece of promotional trailer, the original Breath of the Wild 2 announcement,
right?
The one underground,
right?
That's my second. But like, aside from this trailer, that's all the other ones. I'm like, it was okay, but the 2019 one was. Yeah, it was so dark and
caught my attention.
Really set the mood.
Caught my attention.
Caught the attention. Even though they didn't even show much about what this game was going to be about, it just set the mood really well.
I mean, I saw Ganondorf. That's all I needed to see. Like the mood, the mood, and the fact it was the Majora's Mask potential. Like, I really like Majora's Mask. I think it's an excellent dark side of Ocarina of Time. Like, it's kind of a sequel to Ocarina of Time. It's using the same thing, and so you got this game, and it's Breath of the Wild 2. It's using the same engine as Breath of the Wild, similar to Majora's Mask. It's got a darker tone thanks to that trailer. That's when I was really like, my mind was racing. I was like, this looks like they're gonna pull a Majora's Mask and just completely flip the script, do all kinds of crazy things we're not expecting.
Yeah, same.
All right, last thing. Game of the year. Do you think that Tears of the Kingdom has any competition for Game of the Year, like from anyone? Because a lot of big names are coming out this year as well.
I don't know. I can't really.
Can you give me a refresher?
Sure.
Because I'm not too sure what's slated right now.
So,
I know. I previously I thought like back before the game came out, I thought not Hyrule, Hogwarts Legacy I thought was going to be a great contender, but it looks like
It's
it's
not.
kind of like
Yeah, it's not.
not.
I'm sure it's a fine game, but I don't think it's a contender.
just a solid 7, which would be low for a Zelda game.
So here's the ones that I think have potential. Final Fantasy 16 seems to be.
Oh yeah,
It seems it's a big thing. The guy that's producing it, Naoki Yoshida, he's famous for making Final Fantasy 14. And from what I look at it, it's like, okay, this looks really good. This looks interesting. Starfield is also coming out, but I don't like it so far from what I see. But I know a lot of people do. And it definitely will get nominated. So I'm just listing out the things I think for sure will get nominated. Starfield will get nominated. Final Fantasy 14 will get nominated. Obviously, Tears of the Kingdom will get nominated. And the only one I really think is Armored Core, because From Software is making it. We haven't seen anything for that, but it's From Software. So
is it coming out this year?
Yes, it's this
Even
year.
Though we haven't seen much.
Yeah, it's this year.
I wouldn't be surprised if they delay it.
No, there's not going to be no delays. They've been working on it since like 2016. So I think that this is just their marketing strategy now. I think Nintendo and From Software just discovered that we don't have to show anything strategy. They did the same thing with Elden Ring. It was very sparse until like the last month, and they started showing some stuff. I think that's just how they're going to do things now. They're not going to. They announced the Elden Ring DLC, Shadow of the Erd Tree, and then they didn't say anything. No release date, no nothing. So, and then we know that there was a leak that said that it was planned for this year, and it's a very credible leak, sometime in September-ish. And so if that's true, the Shadow of the Erd Tree is not coming out until next year. So they announced it a year ahead of time, and they don't care. They're like, okay, here, we're working on it. We'll do. They don't care. They know we'll buy it.
Yeah. Well, of that list that you mentioned, Starfield, I don't think is going to take it over Tears of the Kingdom. It also got beaten like as for a most anticipated game.
Yeah.
So clearly, there's a big audience that is going crazy over Tears of the Kingdom, and that was before this trailer. So
yeah.
Imagine that. Or Zelda fans are just crazy dedicated. Who knows? Like they all bought 3 computers just to cast 3 votes. But I guess Final Fantasy VII, it does look good, but
16.
Jeff Keighley is kind of notorious. Oh yeah, 16. He's kind of notorious for being not the greatest fan of the Japanese RPGs. JRPGs almost never make the cut. I think it was shocking that Xenoblade got nominated. And I almost felt it was like a pity nomination.
A pity nomination, right?
Because he is just notorious for that. He just does not like Japanese RPGs.
He didn't even give Xenoblade Chronicles 3 best music. And I thought that was just like, that's just sad. That's just sad. How are you going to do that? Like, you don't give it anything and you just nominate it just to lose.
You're all forgetting about the game, though, that's obviously going to beat Tears of the Kingdom. It's Pikmin 4, bro.
Pikmin 4, there we go.
Pikmin 4, there we go. Yeah.
Anyways, I don't have any knowledge of those other contenders, so I can't really, state an opinion aside from I do strongly believe that Tears of the Kingdom will obviously be nominated. Other than that, I have no idea.
I'm certain it's going to win, but that's before I've seen what Armored Core had. Also, did you know Jeff Keighley did a review for Armored Core 4, which was also made by Miyazaki, and he just dragged it through the mud, just like, worse, it sucks. Japanese need to stop making these bad games. Yeah. No, why would anybody play this thing? It was pretty brutal review back in the day. And then I found that really funny because someone made a YouTube video where it showed that, and then it showed him like, one of the greatest developers making the best games ever. I mean, I introduced Armored Core 6 like when he announced it in the game. It was hilarious.
Oh, maybe it will win then, just because he wants to set the record straight with Miyazaki. Who knows? But I mean, a lot of I'm not too familiar with Armored Core and how it works gameplay wise, or if it's like a series that is generally considered like masterpieces, or
It is, from my understanding, is it's fairly niche, but so was the Souls genre before Miyazaki got his grubby hands on it.
True. Well, since Elden Ring won last year, maybe they're gonna cut Miyazaki a break because they don't want to seem too biased. And in the case of Elden Ring, I was convinced that they would have preferred God of War as Game of the Year, but Elden Ring was just so good,
So good.
that there was no denying it. There was no pretending, which is why they gave all the other awards to God of War. And like, it was just funny to me how they kind of try to wiggle their way, like to keep everyone happy, because he's obviously good friends with a lot of those people who worked. Like he's very, well, I wouldn't say in bed, but because that's maybe implying that he's
very connected.
Corrupt. He is very, very connected with the Western gaming sphere. Like Troy Baker, I think he and him are friends. He's clearly friends with the God of War voice actor.
Mm-hmm. I mean, from the length of that speech.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. No, the dude was just a Chad because he was extending the duration so they could hand out more
Switch
PS5s,
more Steam Decks, Steam Decks.
Yeah, Steam Decks. Yeah, way too long a speech, but I mean, hey,
I was streaming that. It's like the biggest stream I ever had. It was like I don't know, 2,000 people, something like that, on the stream. And I was like, okay, this is great. Like, I'm happy. And then he kept going, and I was like, what's happening? Like, this has been going on for a while now. And then they started playing the music to cue him off, and then the whole chat starts rolling. Like, we're all laughing at the music being played. It's like he's not getting it though. He just keeps going. And then for the rest of the night, we were waiting for Elden Ring. Like, we really wanted. We're waiting for Armored Core, and we didn't know if it was going to get announced. And so for the rest of the night, like, music emojis. Anytime anything came on that nobody likes, like, music emoji, play the music, go on, cue them off. It was amazing.
Yeah. They even like joked about it afterwards on the show. Like, please be quick or whatever. I can't remember what they said, but oh man.
Okay,
it was a fun show.
I noticed that we did go over the time that we said we were going to be.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's okay.
All right. Well, thank you both for coming.
Yeah, always a pleasure. I mean, I've never been on your show, but podcasts in general it's always fun to talk to new people.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's always a pleasure to be there. But this one has been surprisingly relaxing. Just talking about Zelda, my favorite thing. So you've been a great host too.
Well, thank you very much. NintendoBlackCrisis, thanks for coming back.
No problem. Was fun.
This has been the Yggdrasil podcast. Thank you all very much for watching.